So let me ask you, have you ever played a game you loved as a kid and you wish for a remaster and then it actually got one from the developers, but only to realize something was missing? While playing, you notice that what made the original a true classic has been ripped out in true corporate fashion. Disappointing, right? Well, today we're reading a Steam review that perfectly captures that feeling. Join me. Okay, so Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, a game that I remember playing as a kid. Come to find out, it was remastered in 2023, and based on what I just read, it's not looking good. But anyway, today we have a review coming in from Slick Skills. One person found this review helpful. No one's found it funny. Not recommended. 0 hours in the last 2 weeks. 9.7 hours on record. Posted August 4th at 2:22 p.m. He then wrote, "Did I enjoy my time with this game? Sure. Did I not enjoy my time with this game? More so. What made Tony Hawk games was style, and a culture, and crunchiness, where this game just doesn't have it. Visuals look great, but instead of leaning into the culture's style, it was corporate as heck, and I felt like it lost so much of its magic. Plus, many of the songs aren't there. It does have a slightly floatier feel that I can't put my finger on. Doesn't feel right. Wish I could get my money back, but it's gone. Games like this need to be unapologetic and not take the safe route. Go all in with that made the games great, also make something new and great again." Alright, so like many of my other videos, we're going to talk about the backstory. So, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 is a modern remake of the two iconic skateboarding games that defined a generation of gamers in the late 1990s and early 2000s. I almost said 1900s. Developed by Vicarious Visions and released in 2023, this collection faithfully recreates the original Tony Hawk Pro Skaters 1 and 2, with stunning updated graphics, smoother controls, and a host of quality of life improvements. Players can relive classic levels like Warehouse, School, and Hangar while completing legendary combos, collecting the skate letters, and unlocking secret characters. The game features both original and new soundtracks, a robust roster of pro skaters, including Tony Hawk himself, I would hope so, and online multiplayer modes. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 2023 captures the nostalgic magic of the originals while making them accessible and exciting for a new generation of skateboarding fans. Okay, so let's break down some few key points from this review. These are talking points that really stood out to me, and I wanted to address them in this video. So not to pick on this guy, but reading his review is a little rough. He started by saying the original game had anti-culture and crunchiness. Now, I'll be honest, I had no idea what anti-culture means, at least at first. Now that I do, I understand it refers to the values or behaviors that go against the mainstream culture or social norms. And I think what he means in the context of this is the original game was just fun, carefree. It didn't really worry about offending anyone. Now, personally, I don't remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 or 2 being offensive. So it's a very interesting take. Like, I don't remember, like, I know World at War had some symbols that may have been offensive for people that actually lived through World War II, and I'll leave it at that. So, very interesting for him to say that about these two games. But now, as for crunchiness, I took that to mean that the game was straightforward and solid. Just pure skating experience without a bunch of extra stuff. And I can agree with that. Now, I also contribute to that when the game was released, as they could not really layer a bunch of stuff in that, if that makes sense. And I'm going to touch more on that in the next point. Alright, moving forward, he also criticizes the remaster for being more corporate and not quite capturing the spirit of the original. Now, I know he mentioned this in the first sentence, but I think this deserved its own discussion. He says the game feels more corporate and has lost its touch. Now, I haven't played the remastered version myself, but I remember how games from the early 2000s were limited by the technology of the time, which made them more straightforward and authentic. You couldn't really pack so much extra stuff into it. So I'm assuming he's talking about the influence of corporate greed in the remaster. And honestly, that's not a big surprise these days. And a lot of modern games that I played, every interface you interact with, every menu or every button you hit seems to be trying to sell you something. And this can absolutely make the game feel exhausting and take away from the true fun of the game. If organizations could stop doing this, then I think it would give most games, if not all, a better chance for ratings. Okay, so the next thing that stood out to me in his review, he mentions that the remaster is missing some of the classic content fans loved in the original. Very interesting, and after a quick Google search, I found that some songs and the hidden skater were left out. If I had to guess, this was probably due to licensing issues or maybe copyright problems, and it just may have been cheaper to just leave them out, or maybe the timeline just couldn't have been accomplished. Now, to be transparent and play devil's advocate, the remaster did add quite a bit, like updated graphics even up to 4K, a revamped create a park mode with sharing capabilities, and of course, new professional skaters. Now I get it, when a remaster doesn't include all the original assets, true fans can feel like it was just a cash grab, and it can be really disappointing. But we have to look at both sides and consider everything that was added. I feel like from what I've seen so far, what we did get is still a worthy addition to the series. Alright, so switching gears, he mentions that he wishes he could get his money back. Honestly, I've felt the same way about a few games I bought too. Now looking at his review, he's logged about 9 hours of gameplay. Assuming that's all on one profile, now that's plenty of time to form an opinion, but it also means he's past Steam's refund window. Now, I hadn't realized before writing this script, Steam only allows refunds within the 2 hours of playtime or 14 days of purchase. So, in this case, he's basically shit out of luck. But I, again, can sympathize, as I definitely have a game or two with less than 10 hours logged that I surely wish I could refund. But just like him, I have to take the L, or the loss. And unfortunately, sometimes that's just how it goes in the gaming community. Okay, he closes out his review by saying he wishes that they would make something great again. I mean, from 1999 to 2015, the franchise released quite a few notable games. 13 in total. So, it's understandable if now the series feels a bit exhausted. And Call of Duty, I'm looking at you as well with this. Now, do I think the remaster wasn't warranted? No, I actually think it was worth a shot. Because if you look at a bigger picture, companies like Disney, for example, I was just there, so they're fresh in my mind. I was definitely at Disney World with the wife and kids. But anyway, Disney often remakes re-released original content. It's a tactic that can work for both the company and the consumer, assuming it's done well. That said, no remaster is going to please everybody. For example, with Modern Warfare Remastered, this is a game I can really speak on. I thought it was handled pretty well overall. Even with the introduction of microtransactions, something that I have a burning hatred for. Ugh. But in this case, I don't think the reviewer provided enough context to say this remaster wasn't worth it. And it really depends on how it's done for what the fans are expecting. Alright, so looking at this review and the remaster as a whole, I truly think Vicarious Visions deserves a lot of credit for how they handled this project. The reviewer mentioned some content was removed, but honestly that happens, and it's often for the reasons we discussed earlier. As for his review, I don't think it accurately depicts the game or how it was produced. To me, it just feels it was more based off of personal feelings than solid concrete evidence that was produced. That, of course, is just my opinion though. Do you guys agree with me, or do you think I'm way off? Let me know in the comments down below. Alright, so that then brings me to the add to the list. So for the few of you that may be watching my videos now, I started the segment called Add to the List, where I'm adding new games that I intend to play based off of Steam reviews. Well, since I've already played this game as mentioned, played it a lot as a kid to be honest, this game isn't eligible to be added to the list. With that, that brings me to the end of this video. I wanted to thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Alright, so moving forward, he criticizes the remaster for being more corporate and not quite